Time for Windows Weekly. Mary Jo Foley joins us once again. We're going to talk about the latest news for Microsoft, including a bounty for a virus author, Lion versus Windows 8, and bad news for Nokia. Could be good news for Microsoft. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 218, recorded July 21st, 2011. I touch all my mice. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Go to Assist Express. Go to Assist Express by Citrix puts IT professionals in position to do what they do best: access, diagnose, and resolve. Try it free for 30 days. Visit gotoassist.com/Windows. And by the new tech TriCaster 850. It's like having your own TV truck in your studio. And by Audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, visit audible.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that talks all about everything that happens in beautiful Redmond and points around the world. Anything with Microsoft. Windows, Windows Server, Windows Home Server, Windows Server 2008, Windows BPOS. Anything that has to do with Windows from a kind of businessy point of view, from an enterprise point of view, SQL Server, IIS. Here he is, Paul Thurrott, my torturer of the hour. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Hello, Leo.
Hello, friendo.
Hello, Leo. Hey, look, he brought reinforcements once again. Mary Jo Foley.
Hello.
From allaboutmicrosoft.com, that great ZDNet blog, all about Microsoft. I guess you guys are boiling up. It's hot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's
My
brutal.
little office is air conditioned, but when I step out of here, I think I get hit by a wall that it represents 40 degrees in temperature change. It's unbelievably hot out.
Wow. 100 degrees, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unusual in the East Coast,
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
Yeah. Nothing
Because
in particularly unusual in Arizona, let's say, but it's a dry.
Well, no, but of course
air.
on the East Coast we have humidity, so
Right.
it's also very humid. This is probably what it's like in Washington, D.C. and South every day of the week in
Right.
this time of year, but it's a
you're
little
not,
hot for
you're
here.
not prepared for this.
Yeah.
Well, today we are going to talk. We have convened to talk about Windows, but as usual, we must, as always, in fact,
Hey, actually, so
we must talk.
Leo always passes the buck on the Apple
It's
topics.
you, not me. Don't
But
blame
actually,
me.
this time, if I'm not mistaken, this was Mary Jo's idea.
You brought up Lion?
I did. He's not lying.
Oh.
Eh.
Yeah. So I've installed it on a couple of computers. I don't know if it really is going to look like Windows 8. Windows 8 is going to look like Lion. I mean, Lion does have some touchy stuff in it.
I don't think the point is that they're going to look like each other. I think it's more that they are going to use some of the same ideas from
From
these
tablets, from touch.
mobile devices,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the first thing. I don't know if Microsoft's going to do this, but they've turned the scrolling upside down.
In Lion.
Yeah.
I like that.
You do. Because it's
It
natural if you're, when you're using a tablet and
Yes.
you want to scroll, you push the paper in the direction you want it to go. That's very
So-
natural.
If you had to switch back and forth between two systems that did those things differently, it would be very hard. But I don't use a trackpad for scrolling on any other computers. So it's very natural and it's easy to pick up, and it's like a flight simulator. Do you want to move down to go forward or pull up to go forward?
Yes, it's
kind of
that.
thing.
It's that. And in
And
fact,
some people-
even games have those settings where the mouse,
Yes.
you could flip the mouse upside down.
Some people prefer it one way or the other or whatever. But I like the way they do. I mean, not that that's a major feature, I guess, but I think it's nice. It's consistent, like you said, with the iPad, which I think is the point.
And you could turn it off.
And you can reverse it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're doing a lot with gestures. For instance, now, and this is something Windows is going to do too, right? Full screen applications.
Yep.
And then I can, if I use, I think, 3 fingers, I can swipe So,
It's 3 or 4, right? Because that's actually a setting. And I was interested in that. It's not a complaint, but one of the observations I had made about Lion was that there's all these gestures.
yes.
And how would you learn those things? And how would it not be that someone would do that by mistake and then not know why they were in
It's a
mission
mystery.
control or whatever,
Yeah.
But they do have a little video in the beginning. They actually don't let you enter the OS until you've correctly scrolled down to a button, which is their way of proving that you can at least do the minimum.
Isn't that funny? It is. It's
Yeah.
like you must be this tall to enter this.
Yeah,
You have to pass the
It's
scrolling
smart. I think it's
test.
smart. I think it's smart because this is going to be difficult for a lot of people.
I guess. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've talked about Lion a little bit in the past, but I think the big deal is just that there are some good ideas there. They are generally speaking, that Microsoft would be smart to appropriate, including the built-in store, which is fantastic and done very well. And I just noticed today I blew away everything and reinstalled because I was dual booting and testing different things. So I finally just got rid of everything on that computer. And when I came back online, there's an Adobe app in there in the App Store, Adobe Elements 9. So I own it, and I'm not going to use it on the Mac anyway.
I noticed
so I
that
don't,
too. I thought that was
but
interesting.
I'm curious if that doesn't represent some new stage of their relationship, and if that thing can in fact be installed on multiple machines. Because on the PC, you can only install Adobe Elements 9 twice. And then it has activation built in. So maybe I don't know, and I'm not going to look, but it's interesting that it's in there, and maybe because it's in there that it has broader usage rights, which is really the point. And I think the coolest thing about the App Store.
I think that it will. I think that that's default. I don't think you have. I don't know if you have a choice about that.
Yeah, I don't think so. So that's interesting. So there's Adobe.
Yeah, there you go. They're in there. They're playing with it. I was ready to hate Lion, to be honest with you. I really was.
Sure.
And but this is what's interesting. On an Air, it all makes sense. On a small screen, it all makes sense. Not so sure on a 27-inch screen. I tend to want to use that, and I think this really does make that divide now between desktop and writ large.
I think that's going to be the big. That's going to be true of Windows 8 as well. You can see it in the violent reactions that people have had. No. They refuse to hear it. I don't. Why would I want a touch interface on my 30-inch screen? It's not a touch interface. It's a touch interface. I don't want that.
So you think this is analogous to what Windows 8, the Windows 8 we've seen? This is kind of the same kind of thing.
Conceptually, I don't think the way they're going to work is the same. But if you were to look at Windows Phone and compare it to, say, an iPhone, and there are differences, in the usage model, just different ways of doing things. I think they'll be different. Like those are different. Windows 8 and Lion, that is. But Lion's out first, and compared to Windows 7, certainly, or its predecessor. I mean, there's some interesting stuff in there. It's not going to be successful for everybody, and maybe that's something we need to remember for Windows 8 as well. I mean, but it's not. It's also not forced on you. I think people forget the presence of a new start screen in Windows 8 doesn't preclude you from running Office 2007 and doing things the way you've always done.
Right. The other thing is most people on Windows are using this kind of a mouse. I use this kind of a mouse, a real mouse. In other words,
a real mouse,
on a Mac. And then the scroll wheel really throws you then because it's not touch. But if you use one of their weird mouses, the Magic Mouse, and then you do the thing, it kind of
I don't actually think that mouse is a good idea for.
I think it's a terrible idea.
Stuff.
I had to just make it work because I've been
that trackpad, which I would say previous to Lion seemed sort of pointless to me. Now that they've really built an amazing number of gestures into the system, all of a sudden that trackpad makes more sense. So not that I don't sit here and use the Mac all day long or anything like that, obviously, but now that Lion is out and since Lion has been in testing, I've found myself I had both plugged in. Actually, I'd taken the trackpad away for a while. And then it was the gestures. I put the batteries back in, I synced it up, and now I just use the trackpad on the Mac because using those gestures, again, it's not easy to discover, but once you know how they work, it really does change things. The multi-finger gestures for switching between full-screen applications, for example.
I get your multi-finger gesture, right? Have you, by the way, put Windows on my MacBook Air, I thought, well, I put a bigger hard drive in, I put Lion on. I thought, well, maybe put Windows on there. And I know you had bad experience initially.
I wouldn't say it was a bad experience. It was just not an optimal experience. So
I love it now. I tell you,
no, it works fine.
Boot camp
I
is
obviously,
great.
Yeah, but from a technical perspective, what you're getting is not as good battery life and not as good power management because Apple made a decision with the drivers not to go with the most efficient type of driver. And unfortunately for this type of driver, there's no way to change it once Windows is installed. So I feel that Apple is hobbling Windows in some ways on purpose on the Mac, which makes plenty of sense. They're not here to sell Windows machines. The fact that you can run Windows at all on those machines is a big deal, and really run Windows, right? And have a choice of running Windows. You can run it virtualized, you can dual boot like you're doing with Boot Camp. I think is a good thing and a big deal and all that. But as a pure Windows machine, it just wasn't right. And from my own point of view and from my own dollars, it's a lot of money to spend on something that's not perfect, for Windows. And it just didn't make sense as a pure Windows machine. But like you said, I mean, having the opportunity to go back and forth, I don't really have a need for a Mac other than for testing. So the things that are awesome, that are most awesome about the MacBook Air apply most to the Mac.
I guess that's true. Although I love it as a Windows device. I really do.
It's a beautiful device.
Yeah.
The hardware itself is just incredible. Are you kidding me? Of course. I was in Boston a week or so ago and crossing, waiting to cross the street at the light, and there was a guy standing there, and he did not have a backpack or a bag or anything. He was just holding a MacBook Air. And it's hard not to be envious of just carrying that thing, because it's like a 8.5 by 11 folder.
It's a freaking Frisbee with a sharp edge.
Yeah.
Is what
and then
is.
it opens up and it's a computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's neat. It's a pretty machine. There's no doubt about it.
So I was just, because I installed it and I thought, oh gosh, I forgot Paul hated it. So it wasn't that it didn't work.
No,
it was an issue. It just wasn't ideal.
It wasn't optimal. My thought was, I went up on the RAM, I went up on the disk. It was, I think $1,600 or more after shipping and all that. And it's a lot of money to spend on a laptop that, by the way, it does not get 9 hours of battery life either.
No, not
close. And, it's just a lot of money to spend on. My wife's computer, which got better battery life, is, yes, a little thicker, but it's still pretty thin. It runs just as well, is more optimal for Windows. Costs $635. Right.
Well, and now there are a number of great choices that are ultra thin like that Air. So you don't. There's no reason to be jealous or wish you had something like that. Do you have a favorite of the ultra thins?
Me?
Yeah. What is it? Dell has one.
If I were going to pick one right today, I would go with the Lenovo ThinkPad X1. I think it's called really the thin one. Yeah. I like Lenovo's, and they finally made one that's really thin and light. Yeah. It has a battery slice you can add to it for extra, for extra time on the battery, obviously, and it's the same kind of thin design, and it has the great ThinkPad keyboard, which I think is very important.
I still like my Asus UL30A. I've had it for 2 years.
Is it really
I'm still
that
getting
long?
like 7 hours of battery on it.
Yeah, I look at your machine every time I see you at a show, and it's nice. I always ask. I think I've asked you, what is that again? I think 13 or 14 times now because it's nice looking. It's a nice looking machine.
It is.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But the reason I wanted Paul to talk a little bit about Lion is not because I'm using it, which I'm not, since I'm not a Mac user, but I think it brings up this whole interesting idea that's going to become very important when Microsoft launches Windows 8 as to, is the change in operating systems from something power users love to something everyday people and general consumers love going to be well accepted by the masses or not?
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to see it happen because, as I've said here before, I'm not a power user.
Right.
So I like seeing all these new iPad-like capabilities coming to the operating system. I think it's going to make it really great for people like me.
I agree. And for a lot of people, I've been recommending iPads for older people, my older family members, my father-in-law, my mom, because even my wife, to be honest, she didn't really want a file system. She didn't want a desktop. She just wanted to do email and search.
Doesn't want a file system.
I know,
Who doesn't want a file
shocking.
system?
I know. Hard to believe. I said, honey, you just go C:, and then you type dir, and you can see everything that's there. If you want to be in a different folder, it's CD:/. What's so hard about that?
You know, I I had a related revelation today. I had to shut down a virtual machine that was running over remote desktop, and they don't provide you with the shutdown or reboot commands in the start menu. So I had to use the command line to reboot it, which I know by heart like a tool.
Yeah.
And I still know this, right? So, and I had that thought, you know, this is not just a lost skill, it's a pointless skill. And this is exactly what we should be getting rid of. You know, this is so stupid.
People don't need file systems, really. You're right.
Well, they don't. No. I mean,
you're right.
They don't.
If it's done intelligently, and this is
yes,
I'll be very curious because there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that is not apparent online, but I think and I hope will appear in Windows. Yeah. Things like the application management is very much like a mobile device, where it just it'll shut it down if you're not using it. It does file versioning kind of automatically. There's a lot of really nice stuff.
I think that stuff is so important. You know, people who are into computers overthink things. We've talked about this. You know, they'll launch apps in a certain order, or they'll launch an app, they'll do something in it, they'll close it, and then they'll go to the next app and they'll launch it and they'll paste something in and they'll do something and then close it and then, oh, I need that other app. You know, and I think there are a lot of people who sort of micromanage the computing experience like that, you know.
But my wife will leave every window open. I mean, she never closed a window. She never saw.
Well, actually, so the reason I got my wife off of a Mac is because on a Mac, closing the window for an application doesn't close anything. I mean, it closes the window, but it doesn't. The application
unlike Windows, right? The app still runs. Right. Yeah.
And I would go up and look at her computer occasionally and launch all of the updaters and stuff because she never seemed to care about that. In fact, she used to drag them off to the corner of the screen so she couldn't see them. And then there would be 117 apps running because they wouldn't be open windows, but they were, she never.
Have I told this story? Every once in a while, I get she now uses the iPad. This doesn't come up, but I would get her laptop, and I would do updates and whatever, empty the trash, and so I closed all the windows. There were like 20 apps open because she just has everything, and she said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, that's the desktop." She said, "Oh, I've never seen that before." What does that do? And that's when I realized
discovering you have a carpet in your room after your kids finally leave the house.
But that's when I realized.
Wait, there's something under the floor, like on the floor?
She doesn't want to know what apps are running or not running. She doesn't want to close apps. She doesn't even really want a file system or a document storage. She just wants to open the thing, do the thing, send the thing, and so an iPad. You know what? She doesn't. Now it's easy. She doesn't have to think about it. And I think that's really what you're seeing is splitting the difference between desktop operating systems that people like us like. Maybe not you, Mary Jo, but.
Well,
nerds like.
I think we have to sort of hope and pray that they get it right. I have my best case scenario, which never seems to happen.
Yeah.
And then I have with knowledge of Microsoft, how I expect it to really work. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to back off of what is sort of a precipice, which is we could go wholeheartedly, just 100% into this future that's going to be simpler. But Microsoft's really into backwards compatibility, isn't it? Microsoft's really into serving their core customer base as much as is required. And if enough people complain, I think they're going to step back a bit. So what I'd like to see is, really 2 feet full in, we're going to this simpler new future. But I think what's going to happen more likely is that we're going to see, multiple product versions. The home version maybe will ship with this beautiful thing on by default, but maybe the business version doesn't, or something like that. And it's too bad because it's hard with a product that's as broadly used as Windows for it to be equally applicable to every single type of customer they have. And in the past, sometimes this has created a situation where you have this product which is perfect for no one out of the box, that everyone ends up changing it in some way to work the way that they want to work. So, again, there's this sort of mantra that we use now, which is just we have to wait and see what happens at build, and then we'll know more, and it's all speculation until then.
Wait until build.
Yes.
All will be revealed.
It better be. Well, that's my other fear. What happens, what happens if we go to build and all isn't revealed?
It won't all be revealed.
What if the cake is a lie? This is what I'm worried about. Mm-hmm. This is what keeps me up at night.
God, I'm glad something keeps you up at night.
Well, that and the heat.
Because when you sleep, you snore.
It's called rolling thunder.
Rolling thunder from the west. let's see here. I don't want to save your topics here. No, thank you. Windows. Oh man, Windows 5.
It's those terms both appear in that topic.
I'm sorry, I'm a little dyslexic. Windows commands 5% of tablet. Wait a minute. Of tablet market, 5%. 1 in 20 tablets sold are running Windows? Could that be?
Could be.
Well, but here's why that's exciting. Because that is exciting.
It is. It's surprising.
It's actually not even 5. It's more like 4.6. But the reason that's actually kind of interesting to me is a year ago they had none.
Really?
So
this isn't like legacy tablet.
Oh no, I think it is
computing.
legacy tablet, but I mean they're new tablets. You know, companies are selling tablets today. Not many, but some are. I actually believe that any tablet sales that Microsoft is seeing today is a reaction from people who caught up in the excitement over the iPad, look at that and say, okay,
But I need Windows.
it's nice, but I need Windows.
Yeah.
And some of them actually have bought these things. And I must have mentioned this because on a recent business trip, I was shocked to see two people, one in the airport and one on the plane next to me, who I ended up then talking the entire way to Tech Ed, guys actually using Windows tablets, like out in the world, and not Microsoft employees. So there you go.
Yeah.
We went from 0 to 4.6.
Wow.
Yep.
I guess you could kind of...
Although these numbers actually are shipments to the channel.
Oh, they're not sell-through.
Right.
Don't ruin this for me, Mary Jo.
Sorry.
Oh, brutal
Maybe the
reality.
number 5 is a little high. Maybe there are a lot of them sitting on shelves.
Well, so what you could be measuring is the aspirational dealer who says, well, I know I'd like to sell iPads, but I can't, so maybe I could sell this Iconia or something.
Yeah.
Yes, the Iconia W. Just, you know.
That's a nice one. I'm sorry,
I guess so.
my voice breaks when I'm lying.
That's
a nice one. That's a really nice one, Mrs.
I'm not sure
Foley.
that it is a nice one, but you know, we'll see. The problem, you know, and as far as Windows 8 is concerned, you know, Microsoft has not revealed a lot of information, but one of the things they did reveal, and I think we all need to pay attention to this, is this notion that these tablets need to be a certain resolution and up. And that the tablets that are all shipping today, I think all of them, if not, you know, most of them, if not all of them, are not that resolution, right? They're 1280 by 800, which is not the resolution you need to do side-by-side apps in Windows 8. It has to be, remember, it was 1366 by probably 768, I guess, is the res. If you don't have that, or higher, they won't.
And
Windows
yet that's
8.
huge for a tablet, for an iOS or an Android tablet. In fact, Lenovo's shipping a 1280 by 800 Android tablet.
Yeah.
It just did yesterday. And
yeah, I mean, I think for a media
that's
tablet,
big.
1024 by 600 would be fine.
Yeah.
You know, for a widescreen, 1024 by 800, or what is the iPad?
Well, they're doing 768. Yeah, they're doing.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's fine. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but you know, one of those people, well, because people write, they say, well, I want to get a tablet with an eye toward Windows 8. I don't want it to be obsolete a year from now. And good luck finding one, you know, other than, say, something like a Lenovo X Series tablet or something like that. But as far as an actual slate tablet, I'm not saying there aren't any, but there aren't. If there are any, there aren't many. I've not seen one.
Isn't there's a Dell tablet coming, Windows 7 tablet coming this fall, right?
Yes.
That's supposed to be upgradable to Windows 8, isn't it?
Yep.
What?
Yep. Yeah.
Isn't that how they're gonna market it that way?
X2 or something, I think, is the name of it. Yeah. Yeah, so that must come with a base resolution of whatever. I think there is absolutely a market of the future for a slate tablet device that you can pull out of a bag on a plane and play games on or watch movies, and then you can latch it onto a base and have it be basically what a convertible laptop is today, but with the screen coming off. You know, it's hard not to look at an iPad and not imagine it attached to a laptop base, right? I mean, so there's no reason that Windows-based tablets couldn't do this. I just don't really see those yet, I guess.
Okay, has all the steam gone out of this one?
I just wanted to point out some of the mobile operating systems whose asses we are kicking. All right,
You got to feel for Nokia. Oh my
no, but hold on. This is who Windows is beating. QNX.
That's the BlackBerry.
And others.
And others, yes.
God, we are owning those guys.
They're so small, we don't know who they are, but we're beating them.
We're not even sure this damn thing's a tablet. But let's just put it in there.
Others.
It's like a Prism, PIM machine from the early 1990s.
But the only real consolation at this point is that BlackBerry and Nokia are doing so much worse. I mean, we are really in a tidal change in computing.
Yes,
and some of the big names are not. I think Microsoft's still in there. In fact, and now Microsoft's looking more and more like a savior of Nokia. Nokia. They have a terrible.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see. Windows Phone is tough because Windows Phone is so awesome, but it has not sold well so far.
Right.
So the notion that this thing could somehow be the savior for Nokia is in some ways a bit of a stretch. I mean, we'll see. And then from the reverse angle, Windows Phone has not sold very well, so maybe Nokia could be the one that saves Windows Phone. But of course, then you see what's happening to Nokia, and it's like, well,
wow,
yikes.
They lost more than $500 million this quarter.
Yeah, they did. But I didn't put this in the notes.
There's a but to that?
There is a but. They also, $620 million U.S. Of their income was derived from royalties from the company's intellectual property portfolio.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, that is interesting.
Yes.
That kept IBM alive.
Yes.
And who does that remind you of? Microsoft,
yeah. Well, right, except that Microsoft is not floundering in the area where they own the IP, I guess.
But that is the sign of senescence in a technology company. Is that instead of making money on a product, you make money on the licenses from the patents.
Well, right, but obviously they're not a patent troll.
No, that's legitimate. IBM has hundreds of patents that they make a lot of money on.
No, but I mean, in other words, Nokia's patents are no doubt all derived from the mobile industry. So
they're real
they
patents.
have patents on things that they really did invent and are using in their own products. So, there are companies that have been obvious patent trolls that essentially patent an idea that they never implement in any way, shape, or form. But the business exists just to get money from people to license the patented technology.
Does it worry you that they are announcing 10
It worries me a lot.
10 new Symbian phones?
I know. It's like we're tanking, so we're going to come up with more Symbian phones.
Hold on. But they did. I think they killed Migo.
Yeah.
But Symbian, I like Symbian.
They killed Migo, or was Migo more of one of those like?
It was Linux.
No. I mean, was it more of a suicide or?
It was like a lemming. Jumped off the bridge.
Yeah.
They said, "Me, go!"
Yeah.
I'm not laughing. I don't find that funny because I'm Finnish. Mango. Let's talk upbeat, happy stuff, tropical fruit stuff. Upbeat.
Mango. Yay, mango.
Thank you, Mary Jo Foley. Thank you.
No, they're going to let developers start putting their Mango apps in the marketplace. No, actually seeking certification for their apps for the marketplace starting in August next month. So we're getting closer.
There was a note in there that said, let's see if I can find it, that they are planning for late August for the release candidate tools for Windows Phone developers. So I think that this sort of verifies the timeline in the sense that we can expect RTM probably by September, and then October would be the release. So it really is 1 year ago, plus one to get to the next version. It's pretty much what we always expected, and it seems to be falling out that way. There was a rumor earlier that Mango could happen as early as August, and I think that this thing that we just discussed was the source of that rumor, the mistake. That in fact, what's happening in August is that developers can start posting their Mango-based applications to the store for possible, authorization, or whatever. So,
right, because once at RTMs, we still have to have some indeterminate amount of time for testing, right? Who knows how long that could be?
Well, and then there's also the notion of you have a Windows phone, and we saw how updates went this year with the minor updates. Now Microsoft will present AT&T and Verizon and the other companies with a very major update. I wonder how long that's going to take. You know, it's hard not to be cynical about it given what's happened. But hopefully that rollout won't be a disaster, you know, like Nodo was, for example. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it's something to think about.
And you guys are both running Mango now, right? Or are you not allowed to say?
Yep. Windows Phone 7 trophy for me on Verizon.
A trophy?
Yes.
And you like it?
I do. I like it a lot. I like it more than I thought I was going to like it.
The trophy is actually surprisingly nice. It's weird because when you see pictures of it, it doesn't look particularly streamlined or light and thin and all that. But then you see it in person, and it's actually kind of a nice little phone. You know, it's not this big bulky thing.
Now, HTC just launched, which makes the trophy, just lost its, or it's losing its battle with Apple and the ITC. I wonder, but that does not affect their Windows phones. They said, it's interesting, they said, we have a plan B. Android is, of course, the problem, and maybe the plan B is, in fact, Mango. You think?
Well, maybe it's pay an IP fee to Apple. I mean, I don't know.
You could also do that, I guess.
Yeah. I don't understand the economics of smartphones. You know, one of the things Nokia talks about a lot, and Microsoft mentioned this at the partner conference last week, was the notion of, well, these phones will be cheaper in the future, and that's going to drive growth. You know, and our consumers really so unsophisticated that they would choose a $150 phone over a $200 phone, not understanding that over the course of the lifetime of that contract that they're really spending basically the same amount of money. You know, in other words, what I'd like to see from a cost savings is your wireless plan will be $5 less every month. That would be meaningful.
Right.
Yeah. I take that when they say that about the phones more that they're going to launch lower price phones that are aimed at people in other countries who are right now using feature phones. And they're not necessarily saying cheaper phones for people like us who already have a smartphone.
Right, right. Yeah, that's probably true.
Because that's where they really can gain growth, is in the feature phone to smartphone market. Not so much stealing away iPhone users, right? It's more like getting brand new people on these kind of phones.
Actually, the Verizon's selling a trophy right now for $99, so even that's kind of aggressively priced.
Yeah.
If you can get them to sell it to you, as we talked about.
Right. You sure you don't want a iPhone, a Droid, something?
I really want the Windows phone.
No. I don't think you do.
Does it have Windows? I want the one that has Windows.
I want the one that has Windows. I want Windows. They are selling a lot. I mean, just look at them. It's a lot of Android. And then iPhone is at the top. iPhone's like the icing on the cake. And then it's all Android. This is in the smartphone realm, of course. But
there's a Windows phone in there.
There it is, the HTC Trophy. There it is.
It's a weird chicken and the egg problem because it is one of those phones. I really believe if people had the opportunity not just to see it and hold it, but to see it and hold it and have it have their data on it, right, or accessible, right? Because the real magic of Windows Phone occurs when you log on to it for the first time. And it is sort of astonishing how that works. You know, we had friends from France who were out, and their daughter is, 6 years old, and she was asking about, when I'd last come out to visit them, and I said, actually, I have pictures of you from when you were a baby and from the last trip on my phone, sort of. They're not really on the phone. I mean, they're up in the cloud somewhere, but because everything's connected, I could flick right through it and say, here you are, here you are 3 years ago, here, and it's such a neat thing. It's just, and I don't mean that it's not possible to do something like that on iPhone or Android.
I think iCloud is going to be their way of doing that, but it's not here yet.
Right. But it's just integrated in, and it's integrated in with the services you use. Right. In my case, Facebook primarily, but also things like Windows Live and now LinkedIn and Twitter in this new version. But it's a hard sell because you can look at it in the store and you say, well, yeah, okay, it's nice, but it really kind of takes off when you can see it with your stuff. So it makes it hard to demo the phone, which is too bad.
Let's see. Let's take a little break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Hulu. I guess it's on the market. It's for sale. A new Lenovo tablet. I kind of touched on this, the ThinkPad tablet. Intel results. And I know what you've all been waiting for. New mice from Microsoft. They're here, baby. They're here. I want to thank our friends at Citrix, though. You know what is also here? A great program called Go to Assist Express from Citrix. It is the tool for IT professionals, software support folks, people even maybe like you who have to support family and friends and want to do it easier on a Windows, of course, but also on a Mac from your Windows machine if you want. So here's what it's very easy to support somebody. Here's what you do: you send them a link. In fact, you can try this right now. Go to the website, gotoassist.com, and sign up for 30 days free. Actually, if you go to gotoassist.com/Windows, you'll just walk you right through it. 30 days free. Now, you want to support somebody, you send them an email saying, here's the link. They click the link. You're sitting here on your computer, and they download a little bit of Java. They have to press one more button, and you can tell them ahead of time. Just click allow when it asks you, and it says, yeah, allow Go to Assist to install. Okay, good. And now you're in their computer. You're talking to them. You're working on it. You're solving their problem directly. You could chat with them. You could show them your computer as well as look at theirs. You could do things like unattended support if they say that's okay. You can do things like 8 sessions at once, so you don't have to wait for an install or a scan. You just do it and start and move on, start and move on. And 128-bit SSL, so even if they're at a coffee shop, you could say, hey, Grandma, go to Starbucks, and I'm going to fix your computer for you. I mean, it's fantastic. Try it free for 30 days. I mean, that's really the only way to get a sense of how good this is. I know there are lots of choices. Windows has its own kind of remote desktop and so forth, but this is the one designed for IT, designed for solving problems. That's why they call it Go to Assist. Go to Assist Express. Get it from gotoassist.com/Windows. You will love it.
Or else.
Well, it's free if you don't love it.
Sorry.
We'll give you your money back. Free for the first month, anyway. So Hulu is for sale. You think maybe
what
Microsoft
man would want Hulu now?
Why not?
I don't get. I think Hulu would make an awesome addition to Media Center in the sense that it needs that kind of internet-based content, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think Netflix should be integrated in, and Amazon, and all that stuff. But
I guess you couldn't be exclusive, though. You couldn't say, well, only on Media Center.
No. Well,
the
you could be
partners
if Microsoft bought it, maybe. I don't. It's hard to say.
No, the partners wouldn't let you do that.
I just think we're at a point now where Hulu is kind of the odd man out. They're kind of like the cinema now. They're there, and I don't know. They're not quite right. They were never quite right from a pricing perspective, from where I stood, and compared to Netflix, or from an availability of content perspective. And by the way, if Yahoo buys them, I mean, come on, that's like disappearing into a black hole.
Please, Yahoo, stop buying things.
You're
not good for the world.
Right? I mean,
I'm going to make a poster like that old poster from the 60s. Yahoo is not good for children and other living things.
Right. If you're taking Yahoo, you should speak to a doctor.
If boredom persists for more than 4 hours. Go ahead.
One thing to note, though, in this whole Hulu thing is all we're working from is a one-source report by Bloomberg, and we don't know who the source is, saying that Microsoft has walked away.
Oh, you serious journalists.
I know. Let's
You
get
really
serious,
like to
right?
pour cold water on everything.
But you know what I think is happening? I actually think Microsoft's telling them that. Because, right? So, Microsoft walked away, and then they're going to be like, wait, we'll drop the price. Come back.
That's what happened with Yahoo, right?
Right.
They're playing, and that works so well with Yahoo.
Yeah. Microsoft
So
ended up
I do, like I said, I think Hulu would make plenty of sense for Microsoft if they intend to continue with Media Center, right? If the current plan for Media Center involves not worrying about the TV tuner stuff per se, but moving toward more internet-sourced forms of content, Hulu would be a great way. And plus, what if as a Windows user using it in Media Center, you got some kind of a deal on it? Maybe you got the plus version, for less money or for no money or whatever it was. That would make some sense.
So you think Microsoft secretly wants this?
Well, I wanted to ask Paul this because I can't remember the details on this, but isn't Microsoft already, don't they already have a deal in place with Hulu for Xbox Live?
Oh, they must.
I think they're one of the partners, right? So, I mean, my question is, what happens if somebody else buys them, say Google, and Microsoft has the deal with Hulu on Xbox Live?
I don't think that changing corporate parents could change a contract like that if that were the case.
Yeah.
But I'm not really, not sure. I don't. I almost want to turn on my Xbox and look and see if it's there. Obviously they have Netflix.
Right. I thought they announced Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
We should look it up. Perhaps we should Bing it.
If only there were some global information network.
Bing Hulu. Bing Hulu.
Let's see.
Bing Hulu. Mommy,
Actually,
Bing Hulu.
It says it is. Let's see.
Did you Bing it?
Yeah, Hulu's. No, I searched for it.
Yes, Hulu Plus comes to Xbox Live.
Yeah, and from April.
Yep.
Okay, so it's there.
Yeah.
So it is there. Now, I assume because it's on Xbox Live, this means it's requires a gold subscription.
Yeah.
And it must be Raphael says it is Hulu Plus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, they've got the Xbox Live TV service thing coming later this fall, which is
whatever that is.
the next thing, the mystery thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So Hulu's supposedly part of that too, I think. So again, we go back to whoever buys Hulu, what happens to that deal with Microsoft?
There is a.
I hope Hulu works better on this than it does on. God, it's so slow on Roku.
On Roku. Yeah.
What happened?
It's funny. So we just bought a new TV, and one of the things that the TV has is these Yahoo Internet widgets, which sounds terrible, but actually, what it means is, well, among other things, is you can get Netflix and actually Hulu Plus and Amazon.
TWiT, by the way.
And yes, through MediaFly.
Yep.
Without switching inputs, right?
Yep.
It's just a button on the remote. It comes up as an overlay on top of whatever you're watching on TV.
Yep.
So for my wife, who's not a technology person, and in fact was frustrated as recently as a weekend ago when I was away trying to watch Netflix but couldn't figure out which box and which HDMI input, and she never did get it to work.
There are people right now watching this show as an overlay on Dr. Phil.
Nice. My voice and Dr. Phil's face. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I can't talk now.
There's a joke there somewhere, and I
just threw up in my mouth a little bit. But it's an interesting thing, and I think there's a future for this. What's basically Google TV, but done right? Where if Microsoft's Internet TV service is essentially Google TV done right, i.e., a bunch of different video services that you can kind of search or look at some sort of a schedule and say what's on now, even though it's not really what's on now in that sense, right? But you get this list of available content, if you will. I think there is a future for that kind of thing. Google never got it right with Google TV. And I see this internet, or the internet widget things that we have on this TV, and it's interesting because you can see how it could come together. So maybe that is the point of this Hulu thing for Microsoft, and maybe that is the point of this live TV, or whatever they're calling it, the TV initiative they have for Xbox 360, that they basically mentioned but then never explained, that we really don't know much about.
Yeah. I mean, if you do bring together the media room, IPTV kinds of stuff, like you're talking about, like electronic program guide, right, and video on demand, all those things, plus Xbox Live, plus TV, it's pretty cool, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. On a device that is selling in tens of millions of units and that people actually have. The media room stuff is actually excellent, just like Media Center is excellent, just like the AT&T Uverse stuff is excellent. The problem is not that many people have it. And for most of the country, for most of the world, you just don't have access to it. And you can explain why and all that stuff, but the basic truth is anyone who has suffered through your typical Motorola set-top box that you get with every single cable provider or whatever, it has this awful interface, and it's slow, and it's kludgy, and every once in a while you just have to unplug the thing and basically reboot it because it's just so horrible. Microsoft has actually been working on this stuff for a long time. They have beautiful interfaces, and they've always done that TV stuff very well, within the context of what it is. I wish it was more available, and maybe this will do it.
We mentioned the Lenovo tablet. It's well, there's several, right? But there's I mentioned the Android one, but there is a Windows 7 coming as well, right?
Coming, yeah. That one's not available. So I think the interesting thing here, well, a couple of interesting things. Let me just find the pictures. There's a ThinkPad tablet, right, which should perk up some ears. It's based on Android, so it's slightly less interesting. But there is some cool stuff in there. They have a keyboard Folio, which is essentially that keyboard add-on for a slate that we were talking about earlier. They have an optional stylus, and it will do handwriting recognition, so you can actually write if you want to handwrite your notes. Something that tablet PCs had about 9 years ago, but here it is again. And then they have your basic slate. But this fall, they're coming out with what basically looks like an iPad, but running Windows 7. And I think the question there, because this is the one that there's the least amount of information for, is whether, well, will it be upgradable to Windows 8? I would think so, although it's falling short on that screen resolution issue. And it has minimal amounts of storage. It's like 64, actually it might even be as small as 32 gigs of storage of some of the options. So it's designed to be a device, not a, I mean, you can run Office on it, of course, but I mean, the storage is so small you almost can't even put all of your media content on there, depending on what kind of a collection you have. But they're clearly positioning it as kind of an iPad type device, so we'll see. I
like Lenovo stuff, and
yeah.
I have to say I like the 1280 by 800 on the Android too. I might really. That might be the Android tablet of choice. I know this isn't Android Weekly or anything, but.
So someone pointed. So if you are familiar with Android, someone pointed something out to me which I did not highlight in my.
They put their own skin
post. On it. Well, but they also have Netflix.
Yes.
And
yes.
Netflix currently is not available anywhere on Android.
Yes, it is. It's on a few handsets. Yeah. So Netflix is. I think this is a DRM thing.
It's a pretty rare thing.
It's on 4 or 5 handsets. They have to approve you. And I have a feeling it has to do with DRM. So whatever it is, they did somehow something that Lenovo.
It does have on-device encryption, and
that's probably
why. That's probably it.
That's probably why. Yeah.
So the ThinkPad one is very interesting to me, even though it's not Windows, and it's hard to look at this device and not think of it running Windows. A ThinkPad slate tablet with a keyboard Folio all of a sudden is very close to what we were talking about. We'll see. It gets almost 9 hours of battery life.
Yeah. Sweet.
That's great. Yeah.
Mary Jo, do you use a tablet of any kind?
Yes, I have an iPad, in fact.
What do you think?
Love the iPad. But as I have said in my blog many times, if Windows 8 slates or tablets are as good or better, I'll be putting my iPad on eBay.
Wow.
Is that a threat or a promise?
That's both.
Both a threat and a promise. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would have bought a Windows 7 slate tablet if it delivered what I wanted, which is good battery life, lightweight, and a good price. And I can't find any of them that I think meet all of those requirements. And the iPad meets them better.
Right.
Yeah. You've just described a mythical beast.
Yes, I have.
Well, it'll happen. It'll happen. I think the iPad was the first to the table, but there will be others.
Yeah, there's some issues around the Windows 7 today is not necessarily ideal from a user interface perspective for a tablet.
Right.
It's been a while, but if I remember correctly, a couple of CESs ago, the story was, we're going to let our OEM partners, do the UI, and and then we'll have something of our own in Windows 8, which sort of meant no one's going to do that. No, I don't see any company putting a lot of money into a Windows 7 overlay UI for a touch device. I mean, it's just such a money losing proposition, I'd have to think.
Do you remember XOPC? They had this thing they kept calling the Connect 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was this really weird interface. But then you're like, okay, so now what do you do for apps, right? Because
yeah. Well, even Microsoft, they had Ultra Mobile PC with that origami stuff. They did a couple of generations of that,
was
and
a flop.
Yeah, but they came out. It's a media center style interface, which here's a media. There's a music page and a video page, and there was an app page. But it was that kind of jolting type of thing where you would launch an app and it would, pop out of the environment because there was nothing, there was no real ecosystem there. It was just a skin on top of something, and that kind of thing is not very interesting. So,
Yeah.
Intel showing some good earnings. This is the earnings season, I guess. Apple had an incredible quarter.
Yep.
When do Microsoft's results come out?
Today.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, wow. What do you think?
Yeah.
Predictions?
We already kind of know what they are, in fact, thanks
Yeah.
to Steve Ballmer.
Right.
He kind
They're
of
going to be
blabbed
great,
out
Leo.
Ballmer. Yeah.
Awesome. Really fantastic.
Well, what people are going to look at, I think, I mean, we already know Windows has sold X number of units, right? So that's kind of taken the surprise out of that bit of it. But I think the interesting thing with Microsoft and then with Intel as well has been this IDC and Gartner both come out and said, PC sales are only up about 2.45% on average between the two companies over a year ago, which is lower than they had expected. And that sounds really lousy. But when you look at Intel's results, their revenues from the PC business were up double digit. It was 11% year over year. So, how do you explain that? There's a kind of a story that people are going to repeat until it really is true, which is, iPad sales are cutting into PC sales. I think that iPad sales are additive. I think that people who buy iPads are the same people who buy phones of any kind or iPods, because they also buy a computer, whether it's a Mac or a PC. I mean, I'm not saying every one of them, but I'm saying that a lot of the people who are leaning toward the iPad maybe weren't Windows PC customers anyway. They weren't in the market anyway. But now here's this device that's really easy to use, and it puts it over the top for them. But it doesn't necessarily means that they were shopping for a Windows PC. So my theory on the Intel thing, the difference between Intel's actual sales figures and the IDC Gartner estimates, is that the Intel product line is transitioning away from these lower-end Atom devices, and sure enough, that's the one part of their business that saw a drop-off was the Atom business, and they're going toward these higher-end PCs, which doesn't mean really expensive PCs, but it means $500, $600, maybe $700 instead of $300. Because I think we have collectively come to understand that those entry-level Atom PCs are garbage, So I think that's the, I think that's the big deal on the Intel side. And then we'll need to see with Microsoft whether there's any hint, in what they say, because they'll make some comment. We have seen an erosion of the PC market, perhaps, or they'll say something about it, and then we'll know. So I think the thing we're waiting on is, we know they're going to make a lot of money. 17 billion in the quarter or something like that, and it's going to be a lot of money. But I think the question is going to be what's going on with PCs, because that's obviously the core of what they do. How much money did Bing lose? I mean, there are some details to look at, but I mean, I think people are going to be paying attention to the PC side of it.
You don't think that who was it that said the iPad was cutting into?
Everyone says it. Everyone says it.
Yeah.
What Apple said was, someone said, are iPads impacting Mac sales?
Mac sales, yeah.
And they said yes, a little bit. But more so, we see the sales coming from Windows PCs.
Right. Little dig there.
Well, no, but in other words, Apple they poll their customers.
Right.
And they ask them questions.
Yeah.
And
What did you use before this? Yeah.
Sure. Or, you buy this kind of companion device. What else do you use? Well,
Right.
A lot of them are Windows users, of course. I mean, this is what I've been saying all along. I mean, there are a lot of Windows users, whatever. I mean, it doesn't mean that there aren't. I mean, obviously, like you said, your mother or whoever, my mother would be an ideal candidate for an iPad.
You bet.
Because she doesn't have, she has no need for, not just the complexity, but even the power of a Windows PC or a Mac would be beyond her needs. It's not meeting a need. The iPad is meeting a need, simplicity-wise, for a certain segment of the population. I think that I just don't think for a lot of people it's a fair comparison.
I think the cutting in stuff is more about netbooks too, right?
Yeah.
If the iPad's stealing sales from PCs, it's more likely to be stealing sales that might have gone to netbooks.
Right.
Right. So actually, I was just talking to somebody about that. I know these people. They're because of the type of work that occurs at Windows IT Pro. A lot of the guys I work with travel with these huge honking laptops because they need multi-cores and all kinds of RAM and big hard drives, and they run server operating systems in virtual machines. But when you travel with a machine like that, it doesn't get good battery life. It's not, plus you don't want to put, movies on it or anything like that. So a lot of these guys, because they're Windows guys, they travel with a netbook as well. And they use the netbook to walk around with when they're at a trade show because it's lighter and more portable. And then when they're on the plane, they can watch a movie on it and they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff because it gets good battery life. But, a lot of people bought netbooks early on because they were so cheap. But then I think the consensus there is simply that you kind of get what you pay for, and netbooks are cheap for a reason. They're lousy. And Intel has made advances with the Atom chip. Apparently, I'm not going back in that direction myself personally, but I've never been satisfied by the performance of those machines. So, yeah, if all you want is a portable media player, which is what I'm looking for in an iPad type device, iPad is a better solution for that kind of thing. There's no doubt about it.
Isn't Intel going to up the speed on Atom and so forth? Aren't they doing that now so that it'll be...
No, yeah, they are. They are, but
Still not enough?
Even Intel's talking about this new market segment. I think it's Ultrabook, right? Which is kind of, netbook plus one or netbook
You know what it really
done
is?
right.
Ultra cheap.
Yeah, well, it's not ultra cheap, but
skates.
it's the next step up from netbook. It's that $500 to $600 range.
Oh, so, okay. Because, I'll give you an example. We have a good friend of mine. Kid's turning 11. She doesn't have a lot of money. Kid wants a gaming computer. She said, I got $300 to spend. And it's like...
$300. Buy an Xbox 360.
That's exactly what I said.
It is your $300.
I said, spend the money on an Xbox. You'd be much better off. But it's web games. And I said, well, you could probably get a netbook for that. There's a lot of people...
That money, because an iPad would be good for that. Yeah, there's a good game market, obviously, on the iPad.
She doesn't want to spend that money for an 11-year-old.
I have no problem with that at all.
$300.
Yeah,
but it almost feels like that's you're throwing $300 away. Get an Xbox because a $300 netbook is just nobody's going to be happy.
You will be so disappointed in that, and it will not be a good machine to play games.
You will rue the day, Thurrott.
Rue the day. Yeah.
You will rue the day you bought a $300 laptop.
I'm not sure it's that serious, but yes, it is.
You're on my list, Thurrott. I'm sorry. I'm channeling somebody else.
Costanza, George Costanza.
Exactly. You're right. I don't know how that came out. You're on my list. Let's see. I know you've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this. I'm almost tempted to put it off and do a commercial and stuff because it's such a good tease.
Yep.
But no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give it to you folks right now. A new Microsoft mouse line. Even the Microsoft person in here went, ooh. Ooh. She went, ooh.
Would you like to touch the mouse?
It's the new Microsoft Touch mouse. Touch my mouse.
So there
Now's
are three.
the time when we touch the mouse.
Yeah, only one of them's out now. So there's an Arc Touch mouse that's out now.
Actually,
I
have that Arc mouse, and I love it.
No, this is the Arc Touch mouse.
Oh, it's not the one that folds open?
It does fold open, but it lays flat when it's traveling. Have you seen this one?
No, this one's it's an Arc.
Yeah, well, this one curves into an arc, but when you travel with it, it lays perfectly flat. In fact,
I love that Arc
It's
mouse.
like cracking the back of a lobster every time you open the thing up.
Yeah, I think that's the one I got. Well, maybe not. I got it in January. This is brand new.
It's possible. There's an Arc mouse that's been around for a little while,
that's
and
the
then
one
there's an Arc Touch mouse, which is newer.
I don't know.
Okay.
I touch all my mice. Is that wrong?
So
is it so wrong?
It depends on the context, Leo.
Okay.
So it's the Arc Touch mouse, at least the one that's out now. The touch bit is really just the strip in the middle, the middle button. But then there's a touch mouse, which is awesome looking. It looks like a Darth Vader mouse or something, that's coming sometime this fall.
Ooh.
So that's the Arc Touch mouse. That one's out now.
Ooh. That is not the one I have, and that's the one I want.
It's kind of a lousy mouse.
Oh.
I think.
Okay, never mind. I want to touch
it, like I said, the touch bit is that strip, right?
Right.
It's
so instead of a scroll wheel, you touch the...
Yeah, it's sensitive.
Ooh.
Too sensitive, in my
really?
opinion.
Ooh.
But
Would you touch my strip? It's very sensitive. So,
right, so-
are these new ones going to be less sensitive?
I don't know. I don't have one. But there's two coming. So there's an Explorer touch mouse, and then there is an just a touch mouse. And the Explorer touch mouse was just announced. It's gonna be very expensive, actually. I think it's no, it's $50 for the
Oh, that's not
Explorer
bad.
touch mouse.
It's not
bad.
It's pricey. I mean, it's relatively pricey. But
Well,
this one
that's-
is in piano black, so it'll really show fingerprints nicely.
Yeah,
This will
actually,
be great for house.
Yes.
Or no, CSI Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the one I like the most though, it's just called the touch mouse, and it's $80. It's very expensive, but it's a beautiful design. But you know, I think the question here is, what's the touch bit? You know, what are we talking about when you say touch? You know, and I believe that and I could be wrong because again I don't have one, but I think only the touch mouse offers a full surface for gestures.
So this is like the Magic Mouse of Macintosh.
Yes, I think
fame.
that's a good way to put it. There's no little ball, but there is the notion of gestures on the mouse. So you can use 3 fingers to do, a 3-finger gesture to
You
do
don't need
something.
a ball if it's
2-finger
really
gesture.
sensitive on the surface, I find.
I don't like where this conversation's going.
Sorry. Mary Jo, it's okay if you want to leave now.
NSFW.
Yeah,
We're now in
man.
not safe for work mode.
Yeah,
Mary Jo, it's okay if you want to leave. Thurrott, you're stuck.
You can't. It's the rot. You got to stay. So this
You
is
see the
coming out.
design of this. It's
yes,
very nice
It's
looking.
beautiful. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's
So
natural and
this
fluid.
one I really, I want to see this one.
Yeah.
The other two, the touch bit is just that middle part,
Right.
and it's fine. I
So
mean,
this,
it's no big-
but this is sensitive across the whole
front of it, yeah.
whole front of it.
But it does support multi-touch gestures. So
Right. So this is very much like. I mean, that's pretty much what we're talking about on the Microsoft. I mean, the Apple Magic. It's white, not black, but it's
Yes.
sensitive across the whole surface.
it's not quite the tragic, Mac pad or whatever, but we're getting there, I guess.
The
So-
Magic Trackpad. Did you call
Whatever.
it the tragic Mac pad? I like that. Is that what you Windows people are think of us?
You don't want to know what we think of you.
How's your tragic Mac pad? Did you touch it today?
You know how in the Time Machine there are the Morlocks and then there are the
Yeah.
other ones.
Yeah, you're the other ones.
I have an ergonomic question though for you, Leo.
Yes, I'm a lefty. Are you noticing that I use my left hand a lot?
No, I didn't notice that, but
That's one problem.
I'm having a lot of trouble lately with my mouse and hand.
Yeah.
It's really been killing me
Like
lately, and
hurting,
I'm like, I wonder if these touch mice would be better.
I think worse because
No, that would be worse.
what
yeah.
you don't want is small movements, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
the mouse movement tends to be a larger gross movement. But when you start doing a lot of this little niddly stuff with your finger, I think that's
Yeah.
actually worse.
Yep.
What the,
I have when I go on a trip and I have to use a laptop, the backs of my hands will start to hurt from the mousing
yes,
stuff.
me too.
And what I found years ago was before we had really big mice, you could get trackballs, and you probably still kind of can. And I had
That's
to
what
switch
that's
to
what a
those
lot
for
of
while.
people who have carpal tunnel will end up using
Yes,
a trackball.
and yes, it really is better on the hand. And
I find it
obviously-
so frustrating.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I want to take the
I
ball
could never
and
use.
throw it.
Oh yeah, no, but if you have to, you have to. I mean, I'm slouching here, like a complete ergonomic disaster. But when I'm actually working and sitting up straight, you obviously you want everything in the right place. But I found that an ergonomic keyboard, a real one, not the slightly curved keyboard, but a nice ergonomic keyboard. And now instead of a rollerball, the bigger mice. So the mouse that I use is the current. I think it's like the Blue Track Explorer mouse. And so it's kind of big for a
Big
mouse.
would be good. Bigger would be better, I think.
Big is better. Big is
Yeah.
absolutely better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And changing
Mine
your
is-
hand, I mean,
This
Mary
is
Jo.
mine.
Let me see.
Mine is
Which
big.
one is it?
Let me
What's
see.
the model? It's pretty big, actually. Yeah.
It is.
What is
Yeah.
that thing?
It's it's some Microsoft. It might be the one you're
It is
talking about.
Microsoft.
Okay. I used to. I used to do on TV for some reason. TV people love ergonomic segments, so we would do. Finally, I put it my foot down.
Well,
and said, I'm not going to do another.
It's actually really important. It's something most
It
people
is.
look for.
It is, and but it was, But what they
Yeah.
always told me is that one of the issues you have with a mouse is that your wrist is at an angle, and that's really where the
Yeah.
carpal tunnel. comes in, because your wrist, you know, the carpal tunnel part of your wrist, you have very, you know, you have a sheath here with nerves in it, and it's very narrow.
It should be straight.
And you don't want it
from your
at
elbow.
an angle. So what happens with a mouse is it's tilted up. So one of the things they always gave me is a mouse pad with a wrist rest that would raise your wrist.
That's exactly.
Because you want to be straight, right, Paul? Is that right?
Yeah.
I will show you mine, because my I have an arm
sensitive
on the
on the
chair.
top.
Well, I have an arm on the chair, right? So when my arm is there, it's straight, and then I have the. I don't know if you can. Let's see if I can position this correctly. Sorry. There's a pad here, in front of the mouse. It's spongy.
Yeah.
So when my hand is on the mouse, it's the whole thing straight.
Yeah, I think that's
And
what
so
you want.
This is it's absolutely ideal.
Because otherwise, you're breaking your wrist as you mouse. You're always breaking your wrist, and that's what really irritates the nerves in the that narrow tube.
It's all about the height of the table where things are on, and the keyboard and the mouse are on, and the height of your arm rests, and you know there's a whole. It's like a system.
It is a system. Your knees are right angles. Your arms, but you know I've never done that. That's you know I just can't do that.
It's important if you're going to sit in front of a computer all day.
Well, you guys are writers. I'm not a writer, but you guys, this is your bread and butter. If you can't write, you are in trouble.
Oh, it's I don't want to be you know talking into the computer like you know through Dragon Naturally Speaking.
No, and that's why I rest my tongue periodically, because this is how I make my living.
Do you wrap it in a little towel at night and
I got
put some warm
like a
tea bag on it or something?
I just sit there and I watch TV, and that's best. Seriously, I could break my wrists. I could lose my because I don't type. I just kind of talk a lot.
Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
well,
Mary Jo.
now
Did that solve
my
your?
hopes.
Did that answer your conundrum?
These mice
Yes,
are not going to.
You're dashing my hopes for the touch mouse. I thought it was going to be my fix.
Doesn't sound good for you.
No. Well, and you know.
Actually, you know what? The Tragic Mac Pad would actually probably be pretty good. I know it doesn't work. Well, maybe it does work with.
I don't. You know what? I don't think it would be, because I think there's too much movement there. Honestly,
you don't want to do so much.
You want your wrist anchored on that little pad that's in front of the mouse pad, and you just move, and you know your arm is stable the whole time. I think the problem with that trackpad is you're moving your whole arm. You know, it's
Right.
I don't know. I'm not an expert, Mary Jo, but my advice, which I expect
you sound pretty expert. It sounds like you spent a lot of energy on this, actually.
I've spent a lot of time. Well, because seriously, years ago, when I did feel that pain in the back of my hands, I thought, you know, and I don't remember how, 10 years ago or more. I mean, I need to keep doing what I'm doing, so I need to solve this problem. And I figured at the time, if I had to go to one of those very aggressive keyboards, you know, the ones where your hands are kind of like that way, you know, those crazy looking things. And I imagined I'd have to travel with this thing. And of course I would do that if that's what I had to. I need to type.
It's your bread and butter. How many words a day or a week do you think? Do you know? Do you have any idea how many words?
No.
Probably 20,000 words a week at least, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure. And Mary Jo, I'm sure it's the same for you.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Mary, now do you file one column a day, Mary Jo? Is that how you do it, or do you file all the time?
No, I file all the time. Blog posts, you know, constantly. And then now with like IM and, you know, Twitter, it's like you're typing even more.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's impossible to count. I mean, I do remember last summer I would send in the book chapters. And I was really very aggressive with the book, you know, to get that done, right, in a very short span of time. And then you would do that on top of your normal work, right? It wasn't like,
and then the book, and
then life didn't stop, you know, just because you had to write a book. But you know, you look at some of these. Let's bring one up. I mean, these things are actually. How do I get a word count here? Yeah, I mean, God, I don't even want to look at that. That's all.
Is that a word count for your book? How many words is your book? I'm going to guess 125,000.
Oh, way more than that.
Way more than that? Which book is this? This is the phone.
This is the phone book. I mean,
phone
5
book
to 7,000 per chapter. You know, and there's 16 chapters. You know, I mean,
then I'm exactly right, Paul.
6,000. You know, for the web
I hit it exactly. I hit the nail on the head, Paul.
Yeah.
125,000 words. Go ahead,
So
count.
you do what you got to do. I mean,
That's a lot of words. But then that was one of your thinner books. I mean,
That was a small book. It was a small
Delphi
book.
3 Super Bible.
I don't even want to go there. Later.
That's probably when your wrists were hurting.
that was a lot of code, though.
Code is typing.
That's true.
In the words of Truman Capote, that's not writing, that's typing. This is, I mean, Mary Jo. I know, I've seen bloggers. I know bloggers. You guys are compulsive. I mean, you're writing all
absolutely.
the time.
So, this is a conversation I had with actually the guy I wrote the Delphi Super Bible. I said, there's something wrong with us. We're broken.
have to write.
Normal people do not do this. Not only do they not do it, they don't feel the need. They don't even understand why anyone would. Right?
Yeah.
There's something wrong.
No, it's very hard. For relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sitting at the breakfast table, you're filing. I mean, it's unlike a newspaper.
You dream
job.
about it. You dream. You wake up early because you have a deadline and you're freaking out internally and you don't really realize it, and you sit in front of the computer early in the morning like a jerk, and that's what happens.
Or you file something at night, and then you're laying in bed and you're suddenly like, oh, I made a mistake in that post. And I've gotten up a few times at like 4 a.m. to fix things.
Do that all the
can't
time,
help
and I'm
it.
not even a blogger. I do that all the time.
Actually, compulsive is absolutely the word. I mean, there's a problem.
I mean, look, we benefit. I'm not complaining at all. I
Sure.
don't know if people understand though. What it's very different. If you were a newspaper reporter, you go in, you work your 8-hour shift, you file your stories. Maybe you go out and gather information.
I mean,
but
I
a
think those guys
blogger is a
probably feel
24-hour job.
Yeah,
It's all the time, and there's this. I think there's always this back pressure, like the other guy's getting a story. I can't miss this.
Well, there are problems. In the summer, my family goes to the beach, and I'll come along, and I can't relax
Sit
because
still.
I feel like I should be doing something. It's like a.
No,
It's a problem. I mean, I actually, we do those home swaps. We talk, I go to Europe usually in the summer, and those are easier for me than going to the beach because in a normal day I could go out in the morning and do something, and then I'll work in the afternoon through the evening because I'm on a different time schedule, and I'm working every day and it's normal. But if I were to get up in the morning and not work, it feels like it doesn't feel right. I can't relax. If that makes sense.
I imagine people who create botnets feel somewhat similar. Good segue, huh?
Not really, but okay, fair enough. I agree we need to move on.
We're talking about Roostock. Is Roostock the virus or the botnet? What is what is that Roostock?
Well, it was a botnet.
It was a botnet created by a malware.
Russia, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
then Microsoft,
not completely unprecedented, but for the first time in a couple of years, has offered a bounty of up to $250,000
wow.
for information that leads to the ID and arrest and then conviction of whoever was responsible for this, right? So they've already pretty much shut it down, although I guess it's more like winding down.
It has been considerably decapitated.
Yeah. They're very proud of themselves. They blogged about this a lot. I think they're...
Microsoft did?
Yeah, they've written about this a lot. They're very happy with the work they've done there. But so now they're offering a bounty, and I think this is the first time they've done it since.
So in other words, even though the botnet has been down since March 16th because of Microsoft's efforts, they want to catch the guys who did it.
Yeah,
and by offering $250,000 reward.
Yeah,
I mean you got to figure there's some people out there who know exactly who did it. That's a lot of money.
Yep. I would rat you out for $250,000.
Hell yeah. You'd be gone for 10 of that.
Yeah.
Give me 10.
What do you have in cash?
What's in your wallet? Got a good mouse? I'll take that.
There you go. This is an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie waiting to happen.
Here comes
Sort of.
Roostock. He could probably pronounce that. Roostock, I am after you. Watch out. I got my eyes on you. He's got he needs a job. He's not the governor anymore. No, actually, the truth is he is filming another movie already.
Sure.
Yeah, he didn't waste any time. He got out. He was, I'm gone, Maria. See you later. I'm going to Hollywood.
He's going to need it just for his divorce settlement.
Yeah, really. I have a kid to take care of. I'm going to move along right now. Have I told you how lovely the new studio is, by the way? Have you? This is our last show. And by the way, I apologize because the sound quality I know is not great. Anybody's listening at home. Because we
just don't care.
No, I care deeply. But we took all the good stuff and brought it over to the new place.
Oh.
So we're operating
It's that close.
Sunday. The next Windows Weekly will be from the new studio.
I refuse to believe that.
You have to do it because it's too late. Our lease is up. We're moving. We're blowing it out to the bare walls.
Very nice.
I'm going to show you real quickly. What we are going to be able to do, Paul and Mary Jo, is I was over there yesterday. We actually shot a little video. We had to do a little sales presentation for Epson, and I won't bore you with the presentation. But let me just play some of the video because it's the first video we've shot in there. You can't. It's not really doing it justice because it's a high def video and you're seeing it.
You should speed this up a little bit so it looks like one of those 1930s videos. Where you move really quick. Yeah.
But what's cool is, I mean, first of all, not only does the studio look good, but because we're using this new TriCaster XD850, it's a high-def TriCaster, so we can do high-def.
Why do the monitors have microphones in front of them?
That's where you're going to be. You're going to be in one of those monitors.
I got you.
You're going to be in one of those monitors. See, your head and Mary Jo's, and I'll sit in the middle. Oh, it's going to be amazing. You probably don't need the microphone, but just in case, we'll put the microphone there. We were fooling around. That's where the TWiT set's going to be. But we are, with this TriCaster, we are able to do such amazing things. New Tech has given us the state-of-the-art stuff, including the TriCaster Extreme software, which means that we can record 8 streams at simultaneous. We can isolate all the cameras. It's this thing. We are able to zoom and pan on any camera without moving the camera. 24 channels. I tell you, we are, but there it is. There's Alex is running it in the back there. So one guy has basically every bit of capability. It's incredible. I'm just so excited. We will be there Sunday for the first time with TWiT at 3 p.m. And then the next Windows Weekly, Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, will be from right here.
Neat.
I am so excited, and I want to thank New Tech for the TriCaster XD850. This thing is amazing. And if you want to know more, go to newtek.com. NEWTEK.com. And you're seeing it here first, folks. This is the first video out of the studio that we shot to give you a sense of what it's going to look like in the new the Brick House studio. I'm pretty excited. What we can do with the new technology today is amazing. So much better than the stuff we could do last time. Hotmail. Oh, man, I'm excited. Big improvements on Hotmail. Whoa!
Wow.
Did I tell you about the new touch mouse? So they've added SSL access, which is actually huge. I want to be very serious about that.
Well,
SSL is huge.
SSL's actually been there for a while, but the change here is that when they originally enabled it, you couldn't then access your Hotmail account from a desktop email client like Windows Live Mail or Outlook. So the change now is you can enable SSL, but if you want to, you can also access it from the client. So they've made it a little more sophisticated.
Neat.
They've also added SSL support to more Windows Live services, similar to what Google is doing. Although I've never seen a list.
This is so important because if you don't have this SSL, this was that Firefox extension, Firesheep.
Yes.
Demonstrated that without SSL, you are vulnerable on an open access point. And email more than anything, because once they get your password, nobody changes their email password.
Right.
Once they get your password, they can see your mail forever until you change it. So this is huge, I think. So you had SSL, but now it's everywhere.
Do you happen to know, I saw vaguely that there were more services that were having SSL access on Windows Live. You don't happen to know which others also support this? I never found a list, so I don't know what else.
No, I don't know either.
So I believe it's probably SkyDrive and what else do they have? I don't know. Whatever other Windows Live services.
Messenger.
You need it across the board. You really do. I mean, this is dead serious stuff.
Yep.
They're also going to keep you from doing a dumb password, which I think is really great.
It's like common sense, not a huge security thing.
People get hacked on Yahoo Mail all the time. I get 3 or 4 calls every weekend on the radio show. My web-based email got hacked, and it's usually Yahoo. But sometimes it's Hotmail.
Apparently, password is not a good word for a password.
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I'm
6.
reminded of the Spaceballs joke. You know, that's the same password I have on my luggage. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Yeah, so they're going to prevent that kind of stuff. And
make
you know,
make it easier too, also for you to report if somebody else gets hacked, right?
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Which is great. Like, hey, my sister was just hacked.
I actually, you know, this is something that I don't understand. It's happened to my brother. It's happened to a friend of mine. It's happened to other people. You know, you randomly get these emails where it's someone who's emailed you in the past, and now they're spamming you with something, and clearly their account has been hijacked. But I just don't understand it. I don't understand. I mean, they can actually get into their account. You know, the account isn't.
Yeah.
No, but in other words, the people who own the account can still get in.
Yeah, they don't change your password.
They don't
just
change
get
it.
in.
They just use it to send mail.
Well, and look through. Well, what they do too is they look through your mail so that they carefully craft a email that's reasonable.
Yes,
it's really
crazy.
nasty.
It's
it happens
crazy.
a lot. I'm telling you, 2 or 3 times a weekend I get this call.
Yep, me too.
And and you don't even have a radio show.
That's true.
They're calling you at home.
No, I don't mean they're calling me. I mean I see 2 or 3.
Oh,
of them.
okay. You get the email.
Please don't call me when you.
No, we got one. It's funny because Jennifer forwarded it to me. We got one from our gardener who said, and it's the same email. Everybody gets the same email. It was from our gardener. It said, "Hi, this is Fred, the gardener.
Well,
I'm in London," which is kind of weird because he was fixing the yard yesterday. I'm in London. I lost my passport. I got held up. I got no money. Please send me some money. I will pay you back the minute I get back. And how's your yard or something? They'll throw in something that makes it sound like, oh, it really is Fred. And then Jennifer sent and CC'd me. Thank goodness. Sent him a note saying, "Oh, don't worry, we'll take care of this right away. Money's on its way." I got this CC, and I said, "Whoa!" And I called Jennifer. I said, "Stop. That is a fraudulent email. Oh, and it's not in London. I mean, Fred." He's not in London. And he just did our hedges yesterday, so that would be a little strange if he was in London and lost his passport all in 12 hours. So, but more importantly, I understand there was a service interruption for BPOS. I think they should change the name now.
Oh, they have.
Thank God.
It's just being retired.
It's tarnished.
Yeah.
BPOS is tough. It seems like this happens all the time.
At least lately it has. Yeah, lately it's been like every month.
So, you know, obviously Office 365 is the next generation replacement for this, but I don't understand this at a deep level, but my understanding is that Office 365 is essentially a completely different kind of infrastructure, and that hopefully this won't happen to Office 365 as often as it has to BPOS. And so far it hasn't happened at all, but it's a little tough. You know, one of the very easy complaints you can make or criticisms you can make of cloud computing is that, you know, we don't have good access to cloud services all the time, reliable services, reliable access. And it doesn't help when something like this happens, you know, with such regularity. You know, you're saying, oh, the cloud is the future. The cloud is the future. You know.
But it does. I mean, it happened to Amazon. It happens to Google.
Right.
It does.
It does. You know, what's happening in Microsoft's case that's making it worse is they have this thing called the status dashboard in BPOS. It's supposed to tell you when things are down, right?
Yeah.
So the past 2 times when BPOS has gone down, status dashboard went down with it. So it said all clear, everything's working.
That's not
which
good.
set everybody off, of course, because they're like, no, it's not, you idiots.
Just a thought. You probably don't want to run them on the same server. You might have a
don't.
separate server for the dashboard.
Yeah, but, you know, but BPOS is tough because they're getting rid of BPOS, right? I mean, I realize they have paying customers and everything, but I mean, how would you like to be the guy responsible for servicing BPOS? It's like probably like a janitor in a back room somewhere. It's like, hey, Bob, when the last guy leaves the last server, would you just lock the door on your way out? Like,
he said,
I mean,
what does this plug do?
Yeah, exactly. I just it's tough, right? It's not the future. You know, it's not.
Right, but the point is, it's going to take them a year to migrate people from
that's
B
true.
Plus to Office 365. So they can't just like leave them there on this kind of, crappy infrastructure.
Or
get
can
to
they?
do
I think we're going to find out.
I know. It's one way
Well,
to convince people to hurry up and migrate,
Yeah.
but it's also a way you might lose some customers and partners if you leave them out there on this.
Maybe they offer some incentive to migrate early, some kind of savings,
How about just giving it a really bad name and then people would just want to leave?
Right.
Oh, too late. Let's take a
Yeah.
break. on that
shall we?
note. I mean, I just, every time I see that name, I think, really?
Yeah.
They're not good with the branding.
I mean, what is the first thing you think of when you look at the acronym BPOS?
Well, I think of Microsoft's Business Productivity Online Suite, Leo. Why?
You
I
do.
don't understand-
Of course.
I don't even understand that question.
Why would you think of anything else? Let us take a break. Paul has been saving Audible books to talk about for the last 6 weeks. So maybe it would be a good time. Mary Jo, I think we asked you this before. You're not an audiobook listener.
No, I'm not.
All right. So this ad is now aimed at you personally.
All right.
I will not be happy until you go to audible.com/windows and sign up for the gold account. 1 book a month, first month free. That means you're going to get a free book. And Paul is going to give us some choices that will just make you say, oh, well, even if I didn't ever want to go back, this would be worth it. Of course, we know that you'll try it and you'll go, oh, that was kind of good. I was listening at the gym and you are in the car and it went by so quickly and I've read a book and I didn't know I had time to read anymore, but I do. That's what I like about Audible. I get so much reading done. And I'm an audio guy. When I was taking my ham tests, I got Gordon West does CDs. I did 4 CDs. I learned it all listening in the car. So I just like this kind of thing. Paul is the same way. You like audiobooks, I know. But you don't commute. I mean, Mary Jo, probably you saying, but when would I listen? I don't commute.
Right.
Because my commute is 3 feet to my my desk. But there's plenty of times you can listen. There really is.
I listen when I mow the lawn.
Yeah.
With
Even just
noise
instead of
canceling.
watching TV, spend an hour in the evening listening. I love it. It's you close your eyes and you listen to a book. It is more vivid than any picture on any TV show because your mind is. It's the only way to. I have a lot of friends who love science fiction television, and I go, that's terrible. The book was so much more vivid than whatever they put on the screen, and they go, what are you talking about? And I said, oh, I forgot. I listened to the book. I actually saw. When I saw the sandworm in Dune, and it was big, but it was in my head, and that's why I love audiobooks. So, Paul, what are you listening to these days?
So I guess I'll do 2. I mentioned
Sure.
to you earlier
Please do.
that these things are kind of stacking up. So I have this list of audiobooks. The one I have in the show notes is called "I'm Feeling Lucky," which is the Confessions of Google Employee Number 59 by Douglas Edwards. And this
We're
is
going to get him on one of our shows. Actually, we're setting it up. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
this book's fascinating, actually. I mean, there have been a number of books written about Google, of course, including a recent one in the Plex, which was very good. But the thing that's interesting about this book, aside from the fact that he's an employee or former employee, is that he's not a developer, right? He's a marketer. And, he got into this company very early, and he has a very interesting perspective on what's going on there, including some of the crazier things they would do in the early days, like force everyone on a Saturday to go down to the server farm and retrofit their crazy homebrew servers that they would staple to, slabs of wood and so forth. It really, really interesting. So
I've heard so many amazing stories from these early Google employees that it really
Yeah.
was. It's a
Yeah,
company
yeah.
that the Google today is not the Google that Douglas Edwards started at.
no, Google is an interesting example of hypergrowth, and what took Microsoft 20 years, they did in 10, essentially, from a growth perspective, both from sheer number of employees and market power and all that stuff. So it's fascinating on a number of levels, but I've often decried the absence of really good industry books, and that's one. It's fantastic. So that's a good one. The second one I'll do is it's a new book by Eric Larson. This is the guy that wrote The Devil in a White City, which was the story about the World's Fair in Chicago. And
I loved that book so much.
yeah, so there's an interesting. I think there are many reasons why it's a great book, but it basically tells the story of two people, that book, which is the serial killer, the crazy guy, and then the architect, the person who designed the World's Fair.
Right.
And he intersperses these stories. So his new book is called In the Garden of Beasts, Love, Terror, in an American Family in Hitler's Berlin.
Wow.
And it tells the story of Berlin, 1933 to 1938, roughly, the days leading up to World War II. And this time it's many people, but how these decisions by different people led to the horrors that became World War II. So obviously hundreds and hundreds of books have been written about World War II and the causes of World War II and all this. But this is
you and I have read every one of them, by the way.
Yeah.
I cannot get enough of that. I love it.
So on that vein, this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
No, so this is not fiction. This is true.
Right. And he is... I guess he's written other books, so some other books, Eric Larson, that is, and I've not actually read the other ones. So this is the first one since The Devil in the White City. But these are both two of the best books I've ever read, and I highly recommend it.
Oh, I can't wait. Putting it on my list. Now, here's the cool thing, by the way. When you're an Audible subscriber, you get a wish list. So I add books all the time. It's like your shopping list, right? These are books. See, I want to read The Psychopath Test. You recommended The Greater Journey. That's on my list. Bobby Fischer Goes to War. That was an Andy Anako recommendation. Look, Audible it's just one of the great pleasures in life. And so a book a month, the book a month subscription, the gold subscription is waiting for you at audible.com/windows. You can play it on your Zune, your iPad, your iPhone, your Kindle. In fact, I don't know if you've noticed this, Paul. You have Kindles, right?
Yes.
Now, on the download page, send wirelessly to Kindle.
Yeah, they also have Audible in there.
The Audible books will go right to your Kindle if you've got a Kindle. So you can read as well as listen. And they're instant. I mean, watch how fast this is. I'll just press a button. Boom. Successfully sent. Because it's not downloading it. It's just turning it on in the Kindle, and the Kindle downloads. I mean, it is amazing. You got to try it. Free for the first month. Audible.com/Windows. We've given you 2 great books. That's going to be the hard part. What do you read? There's so many choices. It's fiction, science fiction, classics, mystery, thrillers, even kids and young adults. Audible.com/Windows. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. It is now time for our picks and tips. Paul, you got to get Mary Jo to do some of these.
I know.
Put her to work. Come on.
Slacking.
She doesn't have carpal tunnel yet. You're not working her.
Well, we'll get there.
So let's start with our Windows Weekly tip of the week.
Yeah,
and this
the
is
tip
actually the Hotmail story.
Yeah, simply to go and actually enable it. It's very simple. It's just a simple checkbox. But in the link that is in the show notes, let me see where that goes. It actually goes to my blog story. So if you log in, I'm doing it right now. Let me just see what it looks like. When you log into your... Yeah, so I actually have the exact link. If you log into your Windows Live account management site, there's a page just called Connect with HTTPS. You just use it, choose Use automatically, click Save, and then it will work. Oddly enough, this page has not been updated, so it actually says if you turn this on, it will prevent Hotmail connector or Windows Live Mail from working, but that's not actually true. If you access, I think there are some restrictions for certain mobile phones, but that doesn't include Windows Phone and iPhone and Android OS, but some of the other weirder phones, if you're accessing Hotmail from kind of a non-primary phone or a non-smartphone phone, this might actually prevent that from working. But generally speaking, you should just turn that on. So just a simple. So we have a link. There's a link in there.
This is good, actually. There's some good information in here.
Yeah.
Including this trusted PC thing, which is, I think, a good idea.
Yeah, I don't quite understand how that works. I've seen that before. So when you install Windows Live, I think Windows Live Essentials, you get in the Messenger part of it this notion of, is this PC a trusted PC? And I guess the idea is that if you're logging onto a PC, especially, you can say, yes, this is a trusted PC. It's my PC.
Do one that you can't lose, you can't misplace, that nobody has access to, obviously.
Do one that you have to log into, okay?
Yeah.
So
and
I would say,
yes, right.
So that they know that messages coming from that PC are from you. And that way it's another level of...
So you can always recover a password, which is really important because sometimes the bad guys don't change the password, but most of the time they do.
Right.
I guess once they've got to the point where they know you're going to find out, they might as well change the password. They don't change the password because they can continue to use your email until you notice. But if they're doing something really nefarious, they'll lock you out of your account. Now you can recover it, which I think is good.
Yep.
I'm glad to see your Windows 7 app pick as well, Paul.
So have you used this yet?
I love it.
So it's a Spotify, finally available in the U.S. It's been big in Europe, I guess, since last year. There are 3 levels. There's a free version, which unfortunately there's a waiting list for. But if you pay for one of the other versions, I think it's unlimited, which is curiously not the highest end version, and then premium, I think, are the names.
It's a little confusing, but that's the U.S. and that's for their launch only. It'll change, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I love it.
I've not tried it on a mobile device yet, although having used things like Pandora, for example.
Yeah, it's very similar.
That stuff works, very well. So Spotify occupies an interesting spot for this kind of music subscription service in that it is kind of halfway between, iTunes, which you're probably familiar with, and then something like Pandora, which is a radio station, essentially. In Pandora, you can type in the name of an artist, and I believe there's probably a song in or an album, and it will give you a station of random music that is sort of like the thing that you said that you like. And the way that Spotify works is probably closer to something like Zune Pass or Rhapsody, where they have a collection of music, several million songs. I think I don't remember the exact number, but
18 million.
18 million. So
it's the largest collection anybody's got, I think.
Okay, so it's very. I was going to say it's very comparable to say what iTunes has.
Yeah.
So for that monthly fee, what you get is access to all that stuff.
Right.
And so you can go in and you can make your own playlists, and you can
share them as Paul has. I mean, I'm on your. Because you're my Facebook friend, so it automatically populated all my Facebook friends.
Yes. That's actually right. So
I love that part.
If you look at us, Zune Pass happens to be the one I'm the most familiar with. I've used Zune Pass a lot. And this thing is very similar, except that it's more open because it's sharing what you're doing over a service, Facebook, that people are actually using. One of the problems with Zune Pass is you can share and get recommendations with others, but it's through Zune. So if you don't really know anyone on Zune, which I think most people wouldn't, it's that feature isn't as valuable. So this thing trails Zune Pass by some number of years, of course, but I think just by making it more accessible, it is, as a result, more successful as well.
And so, I don't have any, what is it, Jan Tiersen?
You should.
But apparently Paul loves this guy, so I can listen.
So Jan Tiersen,
I just double-click, and I'm looking at Paul's playlist, and I'm listening to the song because I don't have this music.
You're familiar with the movie Amelie, I assume?
Oh, I loved Amelie, yeah.
He did the music for it.
That's why it's in French.
Well, he does a lot of it,
yeah. But so I'm seeing Paul's shared. Now, is this only his shared stuff? Because I'm sure there's other stuff in there as well. But I love it that I could just play it. I think this is fan. So the competition really is, besides Napster and Rhapsody,
Rhapsody,
and Ardio, and Monk. It really is Zune Pass.
I'm not even sure it's competition. It's more like it's directly the same kind of thing. I mean,
you don't get to own 10 cuts a month, which is the best part of Zune Pass.
That's true.
Yeah,
that is true.
So that's the big difference.
Right.
But I think the social is as well, if not better implemented.
Spotify, if you pay for I think it's $10 a month, the high end one. Yep. You get mobile access on Android and iPhone and Nokia and Windows Mobile, Windows Phones coming. And so it's kind of a wider range of device types, which I think is going to be interesting to people. Zune Pass, of course, only works on PCs, and on the web. But as far as devices, you're pretty much Zune devices, of which there aren't many, and then Windows Phones, which unfortunately also there aren't many. So until and unless Microsoft makes Zune Pass available on iOS, on Android, this has the edge, I think, and frankly, they have a much bigger collection as well. So I think that's a big deal as well. And then, of course, you're also sharing over the networks that people actually share on, like Facebook. So not over the Zoom Social, which nobody uses, practically speaking.
I was just going to load it up. I have it on my Android. I have it on everything. I even have it on my Sonos at the studio.
So yeah, like I said, I haven't tested this one, but I've done things like stream music over Google Music and over Amazon Cloud Player to Android devices. I've played Pandora, of course. We played Pandora in the car. You can, plug it in through your aux input on the car if you have one, and or do it over Bluetooth, both of which works very well. So I think this is kind of. I've always felt like subscription music made a lot of sense for a lot of people, and I think. this is like a lot of things in technology. It's not so much that this is going to take over for iTunes, but I think a lot of people would use both.
Yeah, well, and it will see all your iTunes music too.
Yeah.
So
That's
you
right.
can add
That's
if you have tracks that are not on Spotify, you can
Yep.
add them.
In fact, it will be smart about that. So, for example, in the case of Jarn Tiersen, if I just want to listen to a collection of his music, it will take what I have, and when it shuffles onto something I have, it will play the local version rather than try to stream
Right.
it. Right? But when it hits one that I don't have, at that point, it will then stream the version from the cloud.
We have, before we wrap it up, a couple of Windows Phone. Actually, we have a couple of Windows app picks, and then
I have
a phone.
a second Windows. I actually heard from Secunia. Last week we talked about the 9-Night installer, which is a great app, and something that works like Windows Update or Microsoft Update. It's just in the background, but it looks at all the apps on your system and says, look, these are the ones that need updates. And this is important because, especially in the case of things like Adobe apps or Microsoft Office or whatever, or actually third-party apps that aren't covered by Microsoft Update, you can get those updates and get the latest versions, which often include security fixes and so forth. But Secunia Personal Software Inspector, which is free, and something we highlighted years ago, I think 3 years ago maybe, does this for security updates. And what it does is it looks at all of your installed applications, Microsoft or otherwise, and when there are security updates that you haven't installed, it gives you the opportunity to discover what those are. So it will run and work in real time, but you can also run a scan against your system, and it comes up with this really detailed list of all the software that's installed and whether or not they're up to date from a security perspective. So it's kind of a nice companion piece to the pick we had, I think it was last week. And it's free. So definitely something you should check out. Yeah,
Secunia does great stuff.
Yeah.
I think they're just a really neat company.
I think we highlighted this in episode 86 or something.
Oh, yeah,
so,
you might be right. It sounds familiar.
So it was something like that. It was a long time ago.
And finally, our Windows Phone 7 app pick. And then, Mary Jo, if you have anything you would like to highlight, like a pick of your own, you just throw those all in, right?
Yeah.
A favorite turkey dinner, anything. your TV show of the evening, anything at all.
Well, speaking of turkey dinner, my favorite new app on my Windows Phone is Epicurious.
Oh, I love Epicurious.
Yep, I use it a lot because I cook a lot, and it's really handy to have that with you when you're in the store.
That's exactly how I use it.
Yep.
Because I'll be shopping and I go, oh, I gotta make dinner. I could think of something, but then I think, well, exactly, do I have everything I need? So I look it up. Yeah, I look it up, and Epicurious is. They don't have as many recipes as something like Big Oven, but boy, if you've got Epicurious on your Windows Phone, you're set because those are good recipes, every one of them.
That's a way better pick than the one I have.
And now Paul's crappy pick.
Now Paul's crappy, boring pick. So Microsoft makes 3 related servers for small businesses, homes, and small businesses actually. Windows Home Server 2011 and Small Business Server 2011 Essentials, and then Storage Server 2011 Essentials. And what they've done is created an app called Connector, which allows you to manage those servers from Windows Phone. So depending on what kind of server you have, this same software will, behave in different ways based on the server type. So, I happen to have a Windows Home Server based on Windows Home Server 2011. So you log onto the server from the phone. It lets you manage users, manage the shares, manage storage, and so forth. I think I have not done this, but I believe in the Home Server version, there's streaming of media. And all that kind of stuff too. So it's kind of a cool way to, basically manage one of these awesome new Colorado-based servers from Windows Home. I'm sorry, from Windows Phone. It's like Epicurious, but it's for servers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a ticket. Looks like the earnings are coming out now.
Yeah, they're out.
You have them, Mary Jo?
Yep, I've got them. So Steve Ballmer was not wrong. They had a
really? He knew, huh?
He knew. He somehow knew.
I knew he had that job for a reason.
What was strong? Let's see. Office 2010 carried the quarter again.
Oh.
Yep. Office 2010 server and tools revenues up. Windows Live revenue declined for the 4th quarter, down 1%.
1%. Interesting.
Yep. So
Windows and Windows Live division. What an awful name, by the way.
Remember them? Yeah.
Yep. Excluding the impact of the prior Windows 7 launch and revenue, we estimate full-year revenue growth was in line with PC market growth of 2 to 4%.
Wow.
Yes.
Windows 7 has sold over 400 million licenses. Blah blah.
Fourth
blah.
quarter revenue 17.37 billion.
Yeah, that was exactly what the estimates were.
Yeah.
That's
That's 8%,
That's
up
good.
over year.
Yep. And
Net
$70
income?
billion for the year for revenues.
70 billion. Yeah, net income was almost
Billion.
6 billion.
Yep.
6 billion net income for the quarter.
Yeah, 70 billion. 12% increase in revenues for the year. That's great.
Not shabby. Not too
Yep.
shabby.
Net income for
But-
the year was 23 billion.
You could bet the stock will go down after.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's not enough.
No, it's
We
so.
want more.
I would say this. Microsoft. It looks like they met expectations.
Right.
Not blasted by them. Intel blew by expectations. They had the 5th quarter in a row where the revenues were a new record. They had nothing but good news. They raised their expectations in a lot of ways for the rest of the year, but then they said, yeah, the Atom stuff was down, and then their stock fell through the floor.
Yeah.
This is how the market reacts to these things. So, Microsoft, there's not going to be any good news in the stock
I would
market
presume that
for Microsoft.
anybody who follows the stock market has by now figured out that it is not exactly rational.
I believe it is, in fact, black magic.
And I am just glad that my own personal ethics forbid me from buying a tech stock because I'd be broke right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
I mean, you can't predict this. This is like, it's a crapshoot.
Yep.
You'd be better off going to Vegas, kids.
Yeah.
But I've never believed in buying individual stocks. I'm a diversify and hold buyer. I don't know what that means. That just sounds right, though, doesn't it? It sounds like it's something that sounds good. We are so glad, Mary Jo, to have you back again. I hope you'll come on every show. Mary Jo Foley writes for ZDNet, and you can easily get to all of her blogs by going to allaboutmicrosoft.com. And she's scribbling at all times. Maybe handwriting. Maybe that's the solution, Mary Jo.
Yes, that's next.
I don't know. That's a productivity killer right
You
there.
don't
I
need a
would think.
mouse. You just pen and paper, and then you can shout "copy," and the boy will come running over, and somebody will type it in.
That's what I really need is an assistant.
Copy boy.
Take a note.
You weren't here, but the people who are visiting us, we have some. By the way, some very nice people in the studio audience. We've been having great people all week long because it's the end of the cottage, and so. Richard is here. He's a local, so he comes by fairly frequently. He brought Denise. She's from Australia. Ran for 7... Can I say this? For 7 years, she ran applications training for Microsoft in Australia. Yes? Isn't that awesome? For somebody beside your own company. And now you're at some other company named Microsoft, which shall remain nameless. And apparently she didn't plan this. Richard dragged her here. And now she's really chagrined. But she was the one with the Windows Mint, so there. And Steve is also here. He's my Elmer. Do you know what an Elmer is? Yeah, no, it's not what you're thinking. I know you got some man-boy love thing going on, but that's not what an Elmer is. It comes...
Why can't it be what it is?
Well... It's from Ham Radio. He is a senior ham who
Yes. It's still not dissuading me from my original notion.
he was one of my volunteer examiners when I passed the test on Friday to get my ham license, and he came. He's at the biggest ham club I think in Northern California, the Mount Diablo Amateur Radio Club, and so that was where I took the test. It was great. It was really neat, and it was very nice of Steve to come visit, and he took some pictures of me after winning my ham license. I don't think they call it winning. I won a ham license.
Oh,
but
boy.
It's a
I've
lovely
learned nothing
bunch.
about this thing that you're doing.
This thing that I'm doing. It's for the new studio because I want to have a big ham. We're going to have a big ham facility in the new studio, which I think is kind of exciting. So, in order to use that gear, apparently, I don't know, FCC has this thing you can have like a license. So, well, all right, if you insist. You want to see the pictures of me and all my Elmers? It's the same picture? Ah, yes, here we go. There's a handsome bunch of people. This is me and all the guys. After see, I'm holding my CSCE. We call that. Hams. By the way, hams love acronyms. This is my certificate of something completion.
This is a there's a certain similarity between the various genres.
We're all old and fat. Go ahead, say it. I know what you're thinking.
And white.
And white. But you know what? There's much more diversity actually.
Is that Wilfred Brimley next to you?
That's what everybody asks. No, that's George. He does look a little like Wilfred Brimley.
I got the diabetes.
He's the head of the examiner program. So it was George who told me to come take the test. Those guys in the tables in the front.
Come and collect your winnings, Leo.
Yes, that's like the check from the casino. Those guys in the tables, those are the guys who graded me. So it takes, believe this or not, 3 extra level hams, 1, 2, 3. Each of them grade the test separately, and then they hand it to this guy on the right. What does he do? He just says, okay, and stamps it, and then gives it to me.
Why are the tables truncated in the front?
It's a ham thing. You just wouldn't understand.
Okay.
Mary Jo, thank you so much for being here. When we come back, the next time we do this, it will be so different, and yet
so the same.
So much, pretty much the same. Yeah. I wish I could say it'll be more fun, more interesting, more palatable, but no, it'll be us.
We shoot for the stars.
We do. You can't get any better than it is now. That's what Steve says. Steve's drunk. Paul is at his site is winsupersite.com, the super site for Windows. He's also news editor for Windows IT Pro, the analyst for Penton Media, and most importantly, the author of the fabulous Windows Phone Secrets, available in bookstores everywhere. Windows 7 Secrets, and soon to be Windows 8 Secrets. Paul, thank you very much for being here. Next week, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, live.twit.tv. You don't have to go anywhere. We will do all the moving. The movers are coming tomorrow. We'll be down the street, hang a left at the drugstore. It's right next to the dog grooming place. We're right there. Come see us. Huh? Oh, there'll be a parade. But not every day. We're going to do one parade. By Thursday, we'll have settled in. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Woohoo! Those are my Elmers.
That's
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, they work for somebody.
They work for a living, Leo.
They work for the kind of people who would make a mint
in the shape of a Windows flag.
In the shape of a Windows flag. That's who they work for, right there.
They look like dice.
I'm not saying any names. But let me tell you, this is made with red dye number 3, and it tastes lovely. Wow, Windows mints. They didn't waste any time to get these out for me. Look at them.
Wow.
What this one? What is this one? Windows 95? What is? Oh, there it is. All right. Where's the XP mint? Okay, I'll take that one. There you go. Look at that. Now that I've handled them all, you can have it back. It's not so. This mint is end of life. Interestingly enough. Okay. Thank you. That's very kind of you.
No.
So you both, just her. You look familiar. Have we met? Yeah, you live here, and you're visiting. Got it.
From Australia.
Oh, really? So you were up for WPC, and then you said, I'm gonna stick around and harass Leo. Fantastic.